Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining from. Welcome to another week of whatever this is. Thank you for joining. Thanks for being here. As always, please do feel free to drop in questions in the chat at any point, because this wouldn't be much of a show without questions from all of you. So thanks, of course. And start your message with a Q, and that makes it easier for me to spot on the screen here. So yeah. Welcome. Thanks for joining. A couple of new things in here as usual, so we'll get to some of that, but I will get to that shortly. And yeah, so I have a couple of fun updates and also a couple of logistics before we get to the questions. So of course, you may notice that the chat right now says subscriber only chat. That's not a trick to try to get you to subscribe. It's because it's been doing a pretty good job of keeping away all the spam, drive-by spammers. So I'm going to keep it that way for a while. And if you really want to ask a question and don't want to subscribe, you can always subscribe, wait 5 minutes, and then unsubscribe if you never want to hear from me again. And that's totally fine. But really, we've just been having such a problem with the spammers that just drive by and drop in weird looking links. So that has been working well. And also, thanks to the feedback from last week's stream, I wanted to mention that we are doing the super chats differently this time. So they won't interrupt the stream anymore. And instead what happens is they get put into a special spot on my screen, so I won't miss them, and then I'll be able to finish my thought before thanking you for the super chats. So hopefully we'll see how that goes. We'll see how we all like it here. But I heard a lot of people last week thought that would be a good idea. So yeah, great. And I have some new tools here for myself as well, which is a very just back end stuff for me. But on my screen that I'm looking at here, I have a couple of new little columns, which I'm not going to get into the details of, but it's so that I can hopefully manage this a little bit better. All right. Is it cold in the studio today? It's been pretty cold in Portland, but not as cold as a couple of weeks ago. So it's been getting up to like 50 Fahrenheit. I should just get a conversion chart somewhere where I can see it, because I can't remember all the conversions. 50 has been so 10 Celsius. And that's been about the upper, but then it's been getting down to just about freezing, and it hasn't really dropped below freezing much in the past couple of weeks. So it's not too bad. And in my studio here, there's actually quite a lot of gear and things that generate heat. So it has been staying around, I want to say 65 without me running an actual heater in here. What was that, 18 Celsius? So not too bad at all. And sometimes if it's when it did drop below freezing, I had to turn on the heater for a few minutes just to boost it a couple degrees, and then it's been fine. So yeah, not too bad here. It's been pretty mild, I would say. The so warm, I know. Yeah, it's not been bad at all here. We had a week of below freezing where it was, I think it didn't get above freezing for several days in a row, which is very unusual here. The good old trusty CTech 156. Meanwhile, you have three of them. Wow, cool. Yeah, it's a good monitor. It's solid. It's a decent size for being right at the end of the table here too. It's just right. Oops, a wrong one. That one. It's just right at the end of the table, and it's my computer monitor. It's a little bit small for a computer monitor, but it's not too bad. Carl says it's currently 70 going to 80 with blue skies. Wow. Yeah, that's very, very warm compared to here. Oh, Hans, thank you for the super chat. Thanks for kicking that off. Appreciate it, as always. And yeah, first test of the queued up super chat. So thanks for that. Okay, so what are we gonna get to? Wanted to test, but missed the message. Yeah. Well, thanks for that. Okay, so let me queue up some of these questions here, and see what we can get to. So again, make sure that you start your question with a Q in the front of it, otherwise it kind of gets lost in the chats. So, oh, Carl says from earlier, when you traveled with your DJI drone, were you able to carry it on, or was baggage checking required? I was able to carry it on. It's super, super small. It's tiny, although once you put it into the case, it ends up being about this big, but they didn't mind it being in the check bag. It doesn't even, like, the batteries aren't even as big as the batteries that I have for some of my, like my big battery bank that I carry that charges my phone like several times and can charge my computer. So the batteries are even smaller than that, so they don't even show up big on the x-rays. Nobody even looked at it twice. So, yeah. Jules says, what can I order for the PK1 Pro kit to replace the M4 nuts? I do not receive all the nuts needed to complete the stand. That's strange. You should have definitely received all of those. Best thing to do, honestly, is to go email the place you got it from. Where did you get it from? Because that's not good. And we made a mistake if that happened. So we'll send you more nuts. We'll send you more nuts to fix that problem. So, but let me know where you got it from, or just email the store, because that's the best place to go to solve those problems. Chris says my desk looks different. I don't think it does. I didn't do much to it yet. I'm scheming a big change to this, but so far it's about the same as normal. So I'm this close to like completely just redoing everything in here and moving all the tables around. In fact, I actually started a project to, so it turns out that like I have a lot of my theory with the way I set some of this stuff up was that by having things sort of with you know, these snakes and stuff, and the like, some of these things are on wheels, like the light stands are on wheels. My thought was that was going to make it so that I could quickly reconfigure the space, but it turns out once you get all the wires connected, it's just not practical anymore. So like I really can't do much sort of moving around on the fly. It takes more thought. So my plan is now, okay, what if I actually make this a little bit more permanent? So, because it already, like, I haven't moved this stuff around in a while. So what if I actually went further and actually tried to do some, I don't know, cable management maybe? Because I don't know if you saw my last studio tour video, but there are wires all over the floor here. It is a disaster. So the, yeah, that's, I think I'm going to try to get things a little bit cleaned up for the next sort of year of videos. But to help with that, because I realized how much I was just like looking around at like, okay, there's a lot of stuff on that. And in order to move this somewhere else, it's going to be a project to like get everything off of it, move it around. And yeah, project. So my thought was, I don't want to just move everything and then have to move it again. So what I want to do is be able to model the studio in 3D and see what it would look like to put cameras in different places and what my desks would look like in different places. So I started that by making a quick sketch of the room. And that is, and I can show you the little model here. This is my studio. So this is, I don't have any furniture in here yet, but I am sitting, the table is like there-ish. That's probably way bigger than it actually is. And then that's way bigger than it is. Let's make it a little bit smaller. It's more like, I guess, that. And then my desk is over here. And then the shelf is back in this corner. Oops, that was backwards. This way. So that's the shelf. And I can just make these little blocks for now. So, and then this is the really tall shelf. And that's, you're looking at me like, I need to do a section for that. here. Oops. There we go. And then we can go and do a sectional. Okay. So you're looking at me like this. That's the main shot. And now I can very quickly go and like rearrange my furniture in here to see what it would look like if I moved, say, the table over to the wall where the shelf is, and then see what the angles are going to look like by actually going into the model and taking pictures and stuff. So I'm looking forward to playing around with that. And the model isn't exact yet, but it's pretty close. I'm going to do some more measurements this afternoon and fix it up a bit. So that is, yeah, that's my attempt at hopefully moving things around to get some different angles in here, and a little bit easier than actually physically moving things around because there's so many wires in here. So many wires. Looks like SketchUp. No, it's actually Shaper 3D is the one that I was showing you this on, but actually I'm trying to learn Fusion 360 because that's like a much more powerful tool. As much as I like Shaper 3D on the iPad, which is, what lets me just sort of with my fingers zoom around and very quickly do stuff with the pencil. It's cool, but it is limiting in some ways, especially once you're doing more detail work for production. So I'm starting to learn Fusion 360. And I actually created the model in Fusion 360, and then I brought it into Shaper 3D just here to show you because it's easier to use an iPad to navigate this on the stream. But yeah, that's my attempt at digging into Fusion 360. So yeah, that is the deal with the studio updates. Okay, let's get to some other questions here and see what we can. Oh, Jules says, I got it from NX3D, and then NX3D isn't here. Yes, please do send an email because we will ship you the missing parts because that is not supposed to happen. That is definitely not supposed to happen. What is the what is the little light that's, oh, it changed. What's the little light that's reacting to that? That is a, I'll drop the link in here. It's something that I got sent from Comica's little care package for the holidays, and I found some on Amazon that look like they're about the same, so it's probably one of those. But I don't actually know if that is the exact same one, but it looks almost the same, so it's probably. Bill says, in what circumstances have you used the source bar at the top of the ATEM Mini Extreme, if any? Good question. So that is that row of buttons on the top of the ATEM there. I would say I have never pressed them at all ever. So that is you can do a lot of stuff with them. Actually, John Barker has a good video about things you can do with them. But as you may be able to tell, I don't actually touch that very much because it's over in the rack over there and my hand is on the desk over here. So I mostly control the ATEM through the Stream Deck with buttons that are on this little device. And I prefer that because I can do more things with it. I can queue up actions and run multiple things or control multiple devices all at the same time. So I end up never touching those buttons. And even when I did have the ATEM on the desk next to me, I never touched them. I think the ATEM has too many buttons and they should remove some. And that's why I'm really excited for whatever they do with the rack mount ATEM next, because really mine just sits over in the rack there these days. David says, can I create an only live stream channel content versus a pre-recorded and edited channel and receive YouTube traffic, or should I unlist live streams as they end? This is a good question. I think there is a lot of debate about this right now. And you will find different opinions if you ask different people. So I personally think that what I've been doing here has been working. And what I've been doing here is most of my videos are live streams because I do them every week. And I do not publish a video every week. I'm trying to publish a video every week, and I did in January. I can't promise that's going to keep happening as we get busier into the year, but I can do live streams every week. And I have been, if you look at the traffic on the channel, if you look at the traffic on the channel, the views that my live streams get, they're always significantly lower than the edited videos, but still decent views. And I consider, 2,000 or 3,000 views fine. It's not gonna, I'm not gonna win any awards for view count or something based on that, but it's fine. And I think it's totally, I have no problem leaving them up, because I know people do want to watch them after they're over, and I would hate to have those people miss out, for example. So, however, if you ask other people, they will say you should split your channel into two, and you should have only edited videos on one and only live streams on the other. I don't think that's important. I don't think that's relevant. I think that YouTube knows when a video is a live stream or uploaded, and will not penalize your uploaded videos for the relatively lower views your live streams get. I think that because I've been having good luck with that, and if I were writing the algorithm, that's what I would do, because I wouldn't want to penalize YouTubers for, like, I wouldn't want their lower view live streams to count against their other videos. So that's my take on it. I don't know if YouTube has ever actually put out any official word on this, but that's my take. And yeah, here's another important aspect of it. The live streams are good for the viewing time. If you unlist videos, the views and the watch time is also removed from your overall count. So if you are, for example, trying to get into the partner network where you can start monetizing your videos, then you need to have, 4,000 watch hours and 1,000 subscribers. Well, you can easily have one without the other. It's totally possible. So for example, you can get 1,000 subscribers by having one runaway success video, and then nobody watches it 2 weeks later, right? And you'll have 1,000 subscribers but 0 watch time in the last 30 days. And then on the flip side, you can be doing live streams every week and have 100 people watching your live streams, getting you to the 4,000 watch hours, and then only 100 subscribers. So, and then if you remove your live streams, if you unlist them, you delete that watch time from your overall count. So if you do have a good, solid, content plan for live streams, then if you want that to count towards your channel overall, you have to keep them public. Anytime you delete a video, it'll take it out. So yeah, I think it's totally fine to have a mix. And here's another good anecdote. I help run a channel with mixed live and edited, and it works fine. We have a high subscriber count, and our live streams are growing too. Yeah, perfect. So yeah, that's my take on it. I would just, if you want to only do live streams, I think that's also totally fine. I don't think YouTube is going to down rank you for doing that either. Yes, we are trying auto switching cameras again today. I'm using Mix Effect again on my phone, and it is in the audio or video. Turn that off in order to show you the camera. It is doing the video follows audio and monitoring the audio from the different cameras, and then switching angles automatically. I do have a button here to turn it on and off so that I can enable it or disable it if I want to lock into a camera. I've tweaked it a little bit compared to last week because it was a little bit jumpy, I noticed, and hopefully it's a little bit less skipping back and forth too fast. Content is king. Get people there and keep them watching. Exactly. Mainly just make content. That's the key. So yeah. All right, queuing up the questions here. I'm already getting behind now, but it's fine. Okay. Here is a good question from Carl. This was from earlier in the countdown. When resizing super source boxes, measuring the difference changes in pixels or percent. This is confusing. I will say this is confusing. So let me give you an example of how this works. And I think I have my overlays set up to do this. Yeah. So what I want to show you is in the super source config on the ATEM. So I'm going to show you my computer screen. There we go. A computer screen, so you can see the ATEM software control. You are, of course, looking at the super source layout, which means as I make changes, it's going to also change this layout. So, wait, your question was super source, right? Yeah, okay. So actually, this applies to everything. So it applies to any of the times that you've got the position and position, yeah, any of the position adjustments for the super source or for the upstream keys or crops or anything like that. They all use the same units. And what's confusing is that they are not pixels. They're not anything that you would expect. It's actually, it's a grid system. So for example, let me make sure yeah. So the grid system is essentially a 16 by 16 grid. So if you think about, draw a line down the middle of your screen, draw a line down the middle vertically, and then do it again, and do it again, and then here, and here, and then once more in each of these. So we should be able to see how the super source position relates to this grid. Completely covered up everything on my screen. But if we take a look at, for example, let's grab a third box to play around with in here. So let's turn on the third box, which is my overhead camera, and position it. Let's size it to 0.5, and then here, maybe you can see that better. Position it at 0, 0. So this is my overhead camera, not cropped, and you can't see it. So where is it? There we go. It's behind my screen. That's why. So if I go over to, for example, negative. Oh, it's not a 16 by 16. It's not an 8 by 8 grid. It's a, we're gonna have to just experiment. So we can find the grid. So if I go, for example, let's make this full screen. Now it's taking up the full background, and if I position it at 0, it's centered, right? So we know that 0, 0 is the middle. And then if we go to negative, I think negative 8 should shift it. So negative 16 shifts it halfway, right? So we have 16 units from here over to here. That makes sense? So this is negative 16, this is 0, and then this is positive 16. So if I go over to 16, it's going to shift it over there. And it's positioning the center of that video at 16. And then if we want to go test out the Y, I believe it's 9, 16 by 9. So this is positive 9, and then down here is negative 9. Right? So now if let me turn off box 2 so you can actually see that. So now you can't see what I'm doing on my computer screen, but right now it's at, the center is at 16x, so that's that way, and negative 9y, which is down there. And if I change the negative 9 to positive 9, it's going to go up. So we've identified the corners, right? This is the top right corner is x is 16, y is 9. The bottom corner is 16 by negative 9. And you kind of get the idea is that it's giving you a 16 by 9 grid. So if we imagine what the rest of this grid looks like, we've got 9 up on the top, whatever that would be, right? I don't think I can draw 9 evenly spaced lines here. Oops, delete the whole thing. So there's 9 up here, -9, and then 16 and -16. That's the grid. 16 is easier to do because you can draw the halfway marks and then halfway again. Now we've got 4, and we have to go once more. Right, so terrible lines. I should have used the ruler tool. There's a ruler tool for doing exactly this. Here, I'll show you what I'm actually doing here. Here is a ruler, and I can snap it to 0 and then draw a straight line. And then turn it here and draw a straight line. And then draw a straight line there and there, and then one down there. Now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and we have to go again. That's going to take us to 8. And you would draw again 1 inside each to get the full grid. And then the 9 is just going to be, I don't know how to do that reasonably well, so I'm not going to. Anyway, you get the idea. It is a 16 by 9 grid, and that's the units you use. So it takes a little bit of time to get used to how to think about how to move the boxes. But once you realize that's what the grid is, you can like quickly get it to roughly where you want. And then I usually end up just like doing a little bit of fine tuning by just dragging it. So I'm just dragging the mouse and it's moving, it's sliding that around. So if it's like not showing anywhere, I'll set it to 0, 0, and I'll be like, oh, okay, there's the box. Okay, now I want it to be a little bit farther down or whatever, right? So that's what I do there. Cool. So hopefully that helps explain the grid. It's a little bit confusing at first, for sure. Okay, so I'm sure that, yes, sure, people want to know what that was letting me write on the screen. So that is actually a new feature in an app that shipped a couple of days ago. The app is called LiveApp, and I'm gonna drop a link to the chat to the app, and it is a app for the iPad, which lets you do a couple of different things. It has a whole bunch of features. It's had a switcher, like an ATEM switcher and video playback built in for a while. I didn't end up using those that much, but I'm super excited about the draw feature now. So the draw feature is exactly what I was doing to draw over the screen. One of the cool things is it has this capture button where once you connect this to your ATEM, which it knows it can find them on the network and all that, once you connect it to the ATEM, it can go and like control the keying settings and tell it to switch inputs and all that kind of stuff. But there's this capture button where it basically tells the ATEM to take a snapshot of the program video and then downloads it from the media pool. Clever little hack. And that lets you get, you can see it's not actually quite lined up. Let me do this again. So I'm going to move this out of the way and then press the capture button. And now it's thinking about it. And in a second, it'll grab the new picture, which should move the ATEM. And there we go. So that's the program. And now I can see, like, as I draw on the ATEM over in the corner, it's putting it in the right spot, right? I can trace this out because I can see it on my screen, and then it's putting it in the right spot over the picture. So there's a couple different modes this has too for keying, right? So what this is doing is it is outputting over HDMI, or in my case, wirelessly, because as you can see, there are no wires plugged in. But it shares it out to my Apple TV. And my Apple TV isn't plugged into the ATEM where I'm doing the keying. So if you look at the keying settings, what I've got in the upstream key is where that's plugged in. It's doing a Luma key right now. So as I draw on the screen, you can see that it's not perfect because it's got the little black outline around the white because it's not a dual channel, right? It's doing a Luma key. So as I adjust this, you'll see the key, it gets a little better until it crops away too much. But if I also press this, it can have, using pre-multiplied is a neat little trick. If you're only drawing white, then that actually looks great. If you start drawing other colors, it looks a little bit weird because they start getting a little bit see-through, but it can work also. So as I'm drawing green, you can see it's, oh, it changed when I did that. Okay, pre-multiply key, you can see the green is getting a little bit transparent. There's the blue, but the white one looks nice and solid. So it depends on what you want to go for, depending on what key you want to use for that. You can also do it with a chroma key. And I can just actually go into the settings here and change it in the app, and it will, chroma key. It'll output green, full screen, and then I have to go into my ATEM and tell it to chroma key. And now this should work a little bit differently as well. So now as I draw white, you can see it's doing a better job of not having the little jaggies than the Luma key did, which is nice. So, and then the other colors should be solid now with less jaggies around the edge also, which is kind of nice. So pretty cool. I think that's pretty cool. And of course I probably can't draw green anymore. Yeah, because it's getting chroma keyed out, of course. So different ways you can bring that into the ATEM. All it's really doing is giving you a video feed. Like if I show you the multi-view of my ATEM, it's the one that's bright green right now. And of course, as I draw stuff on the screen, you can see the squiggles appearing over there. So that's what the app is outputting. And then I'm bringing it into I'm keying it using the upstream key right now with the chroma key. And if I switch over to Luma key, I would want to make sure I switch the app back to Luma key as well. And then I can leave pre-multiplied on, and that one looks, I think, pretty nice if I only draw white. So that is the deal with the with LiveApp. It is an iPad app only, so it is an iPad app. But the nice thing about that is it means you can use the Apple Pencil, which is really nice for just drawing stuff on the screen. Super cool. Oh, and then one of the other new features they added is this tab, which is the browser overlay tab. And that is lets you bring in browser sources into the iPad. So, for example, the way that I'm bringing in the graphics for this show is through a browser source, but in OBS. I could instead bring it in through the iPad, and I don't really have a good way to show what that looks like, but because as soon as I show a chat message, maybe it'll show it twice. Let's find out. Yeah, you can see it. You could see it pop up before there. But if you look at my multi-view now, you'll see it is down on that Apple TV, whereas it is normally not done in my ATEM Extreme. It's normally done in my later downstream. So that is super cool too. And that means you have a lot more possibilities for bringing in more graphics sources in different ways now that you can do it from the iPad. An iPad for MixEffect and LiveApp and H2R graphics. And yeah, so you can add H2R graphics in as a browser source in this now too. So if you go into the browser overlay and then add a new source into one of your, how do you do this? Oh yeah, add. If you add a new browser source here, you could type in the URL for your H2R graphics window. Now that it's all web-based, which is super great. So definitely possible to bring H2R in via LiveApp now, which is a very good combo. I will say the one thing that I always get thrown off by is it's really hard to tell, but see how that button is bright white and that one is gray? And now if I tap it, it gets bright. That's its selected state. And that means when I tap things, different things happen. And I always get confused because I can't tell that it's selected. Anyway, minor UI user experience concern, I would say. Okay, cool. Any questions about that? So it fills with media pool with every snapshot. No, that's the trick. It creates a snapshot. It knows where it put it. It downloads it and then it deletes it from the media pool. So it frees up that slot. You just have to have one slot available for it to do the capture, which is a pretty neat little trick. Would doing all this through an iPad for a commercial paid gig make you nervous? Definitely a good question. Personally, I have had very, very good experiences with iPads lately. And like this is the new iPad Mini USB-C. I would trust this more than a computer, frankly. Like I think I would probably rather output graphics from this compared to OBS, for example. These things have been very solid. The batteries last a long time. You can, of course, plug them in if you don't want to rely on the battery. I am just doing this off of battery right now. It's not plugged into anything. I'm down to 83%. Hopefully it lasts. Where's the focus? Hopefully it lasts the rest of the show. And I don't know. I've been having good luck with it. I think the iPads are solid. You can put them in Do Not Disturb. You can tweak a lot of settings in them. If you are nervous about like accidentally quitting the app, for example, like if I accidentally do that, bad things are going to happen. And then what just happened? Oh, my downstream key is on. That is a great example of like bad things happen if you quit the app because the app can no longer output. Where's my focus? The app can no longer output over the AirPlay. So you just see the rest of the interface. So if you're worried about that, let me turn off my upstream key so I can quit this app. If you're worried about that, you can do guided access, which is in, I believe, accessibility. I always forget where this one is. Yeah, guided access. So triple click the top button. Yeah. Guided access keeps the iPad in a single app. You probably can't read this. Allows you to control which features. Oh, I can just show you the Apple TV. Allows you to control which features are available to start. Triple click the top button. Okay. So what this means is if I go back into LiveApp and I want to lock it, if I triple click this, it should. Did I do that right? 1, 2, 3. It should show you something else. Is that not the right button? I thought that was the button. So I get for not preparing this demo ahead of time. 1, 2, 3. Nope. Okay, now I can't figure out why I'm not getting into guided access. I do this with the iPad that's on my wall at home all the time, where it just lives on the wall and it's just always showing you. Do not do that. Guided access on. Triple click the top button in the app you want to use. Yeah, that's what I want to do. So I wonder if, for some reason, that one. Let's try. No, it's just not letting me do it today. Maybe it's because it's on AirPlay. I wonder if that's part of it. Let's try that. Let's try turn off screen mirroring and then do it. No, I just can't turn on guided access right now. I don't know what's going on. Oh well, so much for that thought. What you're supposed to be able to do is, go into, oh yeah, and it kept turning back on my downstream key because this app really wants to push its state out to the ATEM. So every time I was like if I turn this on and off, it'll actually turn on and off the key in my ATEM. So if you look at my computer screen, if you look at the ATEM software control, as I tap the button on the iPad, it's turning on and off the key because it knows, actually I don't know how it knows what key it's using, but it is doing that itself, which is a little bit, sometimes does unexpected things, but most of the time does exactly what you want. Adam says, iOS accessibility shortcut. So if we go back into accessibility shortcut is guided access. Configure and then the triple click the top. Configure and then triple click the top button to toggle accessibility features on and off, which is set to guided access, which should do what I was trying to do. So yeah, I don't know why it wasn't working. That is exactly what I thought. Toggle guided access off and on. Passcode settings, Touch ID. So if I go back into LiveApp, nope, still no. Are you not worried that you'll have too many network connections to your ATEM? I am worried, and that is, I think I'm at the limit. I think I'm at the limit right now. I think I've got my iPhone for mix effect, this LiveApp, which it doesn't technically need the connection, but it does do a lot of stuff if you give it the connection. You could just use it for just drawing on the screen and outputting. That's 2. I've got Companion and thankfully only 1 Companion, and then I've got my desktop app. So the desktop ATEM, which is sort of my backup where I don't control most of it from this anymore, but I do like to have it here just so that I can see the state of things and emergency press buttons if I need to. That's 4. I think that's everything that I've got plugged in. So yeah, well, I got 1 slot free, but yeah, that's definitely a concern. There's only 5 slots that you get. So one thing to note. Okay. Other questions here. Oh, about this. Is there a minimum requirement for the Apple TV? I believe I'm running on the previous gen, not the most current. I believe so. And if you're only doing AirPlay to it, it actually doesn't need to be a super fancy Apple TV. Most of them work fine. You don't need gigabit for it. You definitely don't need any storage for it, so you get the lowest storage one. And yeah, I think I'm just running the last, whatever the previous gen. I don't remember what their names are because they just call them all Apple TV. The other way to do it, though, is to not use an Apple TV. I just did that because I wanted it to be wireless, so I can just have this on the table and not have to have wires everywhere. Also, I like how it looks when it's just floating on the table here. But the more stable way to do it is, of course, wire it. So you use, for this one, a USB-C to HDMI adapter. Or if you're using the previous iPad, then you'd use, of course, the Lightning to HDMI adapter. Which is probably the better plan anyway, because the Apple TV feed is actually compressed. It does do some video compression to it. So I don't know how noticeable it was in this. Probably not super noticeable because I was mostly just doing simple lines. But if you start doing more graphics or graphics that change faster, you might start noticing some of the compression if you do it over Apple TV, but the HDMI will be much more clean. Adam says, I've used the 3rd gen Apple TV with AirPlay. I cannot even keep track of what gen they are on, but that's good. Yeah, okay. Let me see if we can get to some of these other questions moving on. But yeah, I wanted to show you the LiveApp because that is a very cool app to be able to draw stuff on the screens. Question on the Elgato face cam issue with the YoloBox. Is the YoloBox Pro grabbing UVC webcams not a 1080? I think that is correct. I believe the YoloBox right now only does 720 from webcams, and I think the Elgato only outputs 1080. Some webcams can switch, but I think that's why the face cam doesn't work with the YoloBox, which is really too bad because that would be a really good combo. My camera one plugged into an ATEM Mini Pro is playing audio out in the left channel. Not sure how to resolve it. How do I get stereo? That's weird that the camera is doing that, but if you are stuck in that situation, there is a fix. So if you go into the ATEM software control, there's actually a setting for this. So in the I gotta turn off the video files audio to do that. In the audio tab, there is this feature, split audio. So by default, the audio that comes in from the cameras is going to be stereo, and you'll see in your on your audio meters, you'll see the two like stereo channels, and that's normally what you want. But if you want to, you can tell it to treat each of the channels from your input as a mono channel. So that's what this does. Split audio into separate mono channels. So if you check this box, then if you go and look at what this does in your audio meter, camera one, yeah, see how camera one now appears twice? So here's the left channel from camera one, here's the right channel from camera one, and now you can see that the stereo channels of them are matching. Whereas before, that camera has apparently got stereo mics in it, so the left and the right are at different levels. So that will effectively do what you want, where you can then turn on only one of the channels and then not have the silent one on at all, and it will be going through both right and left. Oh, I see some super chats here. Thank you. Julio, thanks for the super chat. Did you have a question that goes with that? Nope. Oh, I do see a question from you a little bit later. Let's take a look at that. Your question was, best way to play videos. Bunch of different options. So, I don't know what I would say the best is. I think it depends on a lot of factors, as always. I know that's a cop-out answer, but the summary of the different ways you have available. Let's see if I can remember any and not leave any of them out. The HyperDeck is that's the rack mount device that you can plug in SD cards, or the bigger ones take solid state drives. That is, I would say, a well-supported way to do it. And one of the reasons I say that is because, oh, my mouse is lagging out. The reason I say that is because the ATEM can actually be configured to control a HyperDeck. So if you go into your settings, you can go into the, oh my gosh, my mouse. You can go to the HyperDeck configuration page here, tell it the IP of your HyperDeck, and then what this does is it knows, you can tell what input it's connected to. And if you check this auto roll, what it can do is whenever you switch to the input, it'll tell the HyperDeck to play. So it kind of has that control built in, which is nice. That is an expensive option. The HyperDecks are not cheap, but it is it's a solid option. The other big caveat there is the HyperDecks are super picky about video formats, and every video on your SD card has to match exactly the format and frame rate. And really the only way to get videos into it from your computer is through encoding them with ProRes or one of those other, you can't do MP4s. So it's finicky, but it's a solid option. And that's how I do, for example, that is done through the HyperDeck. I like it a lot. It works well once you've got a whole kit set up. If you're looking for something a little bit easier to manage or cheaper, well, actually LiveApp is another good option. This I turned it off on mine, but you can turn on the video queue tab, which gives you a tab here where you can then load video clips into the iPad and it will play them out. And this actually does, because it's talking to the ATEM, it actually does do a lot of that fancy control as well. So you can like cue a video here, and as soon as the app recognizes that it's on air, it'll play the video clip. So you can do little stingers and quick little transitions and stuff that way as well. That's with the LiveApp app. There's also, what is it? iMix 16 or iMix 8. I think they have two different versions. Yeah, iMix 16 is another iPad app, and this one is not as pretty looking, but does work. And why can't I zoom in? There we go. And you can load up a bunch of different video clips in here as well, and that again plays it out over the HDMI. This does not know about the ATEM though, so you're sort of on your own about how you tie them together. And then if you want a HyperDeck-like experience, there's also Playoutbee, which is an app for the Raspberry Pi. And let me grab that link. So that is, there's the link. And this is an app that you install on the Raspberry Pi, or I think you can get an image with the Raspberry Pi. And other platforms now as well, Mac, Windows. And it will pretend to be a HyperDeck, so that the ATEM, you point the ATEM at this, and then it will, the ATEM thinks it's talking to a HyperDeck, and then that runs instead. So a couple different options for you, depending on, I guess, your budget and how you want to deal with controlling them. So those are some of the options for you. Hopefully that helps. And I see another super chat here from Drew. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. I don't see a question there. Did you have something else? Let me scroll back here and see if you said anything else. Nope. Okay. Thanks for the super chat. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Were you testing the queued up or the non-interrupting super chats? Yes. Oh, another one that I forgot. I knew I was going to forget some. Mini 2.0 also works like a HyperDeck. I didn't realize it had the HyperDeck protocol in it. That's cool. I remember that app. I did not remember that feature of the app. I'm sure there's other options as well, but those are the ones that I've tried myself. So Playoutbee on a Pi, controlled by companion, works great from Jim. Wonderful. Okay. Great. Let's see if we can get to some more questions. We're coming up on an hour, but we're gonna go for 90 minutes today. I'm gonna try to keep it to 90 minutes though. Another question from David. In multi-streaming, is there really an advantage to streaming on multiple platforms, or should I stream to YouTube and then repost the YouTube video on other networks? I think it very much depends on your target audience. It depends. I will also say some of the platforms explicitly prohibit you doing multi-streaming. For example, Twitch, if you're in their partner program getting ads, getting ad money from them, then they say you're not allowed to stream anything on Twitch and some other place at the same time. So it's worth reading the terms of service especially if you're monetizing your videos, because you may not be allowed to do it. I think in terms of like, does it make sense to repost your videos other places? It depends on if people are going to watch live streams, not live. And I know that people do on this channel watch the live streams after they're done, usually within the next couple of days, usually not that much afterwards. But that's also why I go to the trouble of indexing the chat messages, indexing the questions and the timestamps, and I put timestamps on the videos. And that's so that you can find my content easier later, because there's a lot of it here, and my keyboard switched languages on me, and that's why I can't type a slash. But if you go to ericpk.tv/timestamps, then you'll be able to search through chapters of previous live streams. So these are the timestamps I just did for last week's video, and it goes back a ways. I think I've got indexed back to June 2020. And yeah, you can just search for stuff. You can be like, oh, when did he talk about YoloBox? And find all the different chapters there. So that's my attempt at making my recorded or my live streams more useful after they're done. In terms of would I just upload a live stream to some other platform? I don't think so. I don't think I would. I don't think I would upload my YouTube live streams. Well, you can't upload to Twitch. I don't think I would like stream on Twitch and then upload it to YouTube, for example. I don't think that makes any sense. I think I would treat the Twitch streams as a different thing. Yeah. Other things on this topic. There's an old saying, if you are not everywhere, you are nowhere. Well, I don't think that you have to. Yeah, if you're trying to get as much exposure as possible, you need to be on as many platforms that you can. I think that it does not necessarily make sense to just put the same content everywhere, but I do totally understand the strategy of being on all the different platforms and using all their distribution mechanisms, because that's what they are at the end of the day. They're distribution platforms. Like, you can put your own content on the web. It's totally doable, especially even video content. It's not that complicated. And unless people are going to be looking for it, they're not going to find it. And that's what YouTube and Twitch and Twitter and all these different platforms give us, is a big broadcast platform. So, and TikTok. But like, all these platforms have different, the viewers have different expectations on those different platforms. So I don't think it makes sense to take something from one platform and just copy it to another. So I think TikTok is a very good example of this. It is, as much as YouTube is trying to sort of get into that market with their shorts, I don't think it's really going to stick around long term. I think that people go to TikTok for that short format, and they don't expect to see that on YouTube. People come to YouTube when they're searching for things or looking for longer form or explanations or other longer entertainment. And I think that is just the difference in the platforms. So I wouldn't take a TikTok and upload it to YouTube, and I wouldn't take a YouTube video and put it on TikTok. I don't even think you can. But yeah, as in terms of being on all the platforms, it's a good idea. I don't do it. I'm terrible at it. It would be great if I was better at like making little short things to put on Instagram Reels or TikTok or whatever that is like, related to this content and helps the audiences on both places cross-pollinate, but I'm terrible at that and I don't do it. So if you can, definitely it's worth it. But yeah, I don't think straight up copying the content is the best strategy. And David, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. And yeah, hopefully that gives you some things to think about as you are working on building up your video library. All right. Other questions. Let's see. Have you tried running the iPad screen drawing app on an M1 Mac? I run a couple iPad apps with good results. I haven't. I don't see why it wouldn't work. Yeah, the M1 is supposed to be able to run iPad apps. I have not tried it. I don't think I would try LiveApp in particular, because it really is meant to be like, it's meant to be on an iPad. Like, it wants to, for example, output over HDMI or AirPlay. I don't know what the M1 Mac does with that. So I would also, then you'd lose the pencil, right? I like the pencil and being able to draw stuff on the screen that way. So I think it doesn't make sense to run that one on a Mac, but Mix Effect, I could see wanting to run Mix Effect on a Mac, because especially if you're running it mostly just as a way to use the super source animations and things like that you can control over Companion, but I haven't run that one, LiveApp. Emmanuel says, can you run a presentation with Keynote or PowerPoint from the iPad and annotate it from it at the same time? Yes, you absolutely can, and I do this all the time. There's actually a couple different ways I do this, so this is really cool. let me get into Keynote, because I can just show you two different ways to do it. So if you look at, here's my little diagram I made of showing the, I used this during the live stream I did about the ATEM in December, showing the different key layers, upstream key, downstream key. So if how am I going to show you this? So I'm AirPlaying my iPad to the Apple TV right now, which means if I show you the Apple TV screen, you just see the interface. But as soon as I hit the play button, it's going to jump to full screen. And now what's on my iPad is the presenter view, right? So I've got current slide, next slide. There is no next slide, but it would show me the two slides. And on the Apple TV, you're seeing the full screen slide. Now, if I touch the pencil onto that slide, it opens up like this. And this gives me a way to just start drawing right on top of the slide. And I do this all the time in my presentations where I'm like, oh, I'm going to draw a line here. I'm going to point to what happens if we are talking about this now. And then you can like undo them if you want to clear them out. And what you see on the other end is a nice illustration. So I can draw a circle. I can draw an arrow, right? So, and then clear it out, and it left, I don't know why the arrow is stuck. That's interesting. Apparently it's a little bit buggy over AirPlay, which is interesting. I normally don't do it this way. This is me playing the slideshow directly off of the iPad. What I normally do is actually use the iPad as a remote for Keynote on my computer. So for that, let me open up Keynote on my actual computer, and I will go into a slideshow that I did last week, because I did first two workshops of the year last week. So that was fun. And here, I'll go to the slide that I normally use that has the most, oh my gosh, the most one that I annotate the most. So also very cool feature. If you use Keynote and haven't yet updated, absolutely go update. And I need to actually update again, but there's this new feature, play slideshow in window. It came out, I guess it was a while ago, but if you do this, what it does is it means Keynote no longer takes over your entire screen. It used to be that Keynote would want to be if you ever would play a slideshow, it would take over both monitors. So like there's slides on one, your presentation view on the other, and then that's it. Like you don't get to use your computer. Thankfully, play in window means it is now this little floating window, and I can move it around. I can drag it around. I can move it to the other monitor. Oh my God, my mouse. I think there is something wrong with this Bluetooth connection, or the battery's charged. Okay, I don't know. It's like, you can't tell, but it's super laggy. Anyway, now that the slideshow is playing, if I go into my iPad and press this little button, I can use my iPad as a remote. So now you can see I can control the slideshow on my computer screen. So if I go to, let me see. Let me go to this view and then switch box. Where's my super source? Box 1. Let's see if we can get the overhead view. There we go. So as I go through the slides on my iPad, tapping next, you can see it's drawing, it's advancing the slideshow. But again, if I tap in here, this is now a remote for the computer. So now I can go ahead and draw on the iPad, and it also draws on the computer. So I can back out of it. I can highlight stuff. I can use different colors, talk about that, whatever, right? So I'm drawing on the iPad, but the iPad is a remote for the computer, and the computer is the one actually showing the slides. And the reason I do this more often is because I'm normally in a Zoom meeting, and I share my slides over Zoom, and then using the computer screen share. So I can share just this window, or I can share my monitor, which I usually do. I usually full screen this on the other monitor and then share that entire monitor on Zoom. But this way I can still use the iPad to control, advance the slides, and then I can still draw on them as well, which is super, super handy. So yeah, that is how I use Keynote. What was the question? Can you run a presentation with Keynote or PowerPoint from the iPad and annotate it from the same time? Yes. Yes. So that is the deal. Okay. Other questions here. Is there a way to AirPlay on a Raspberry Pi? I don't have an Apple TV, but I do have a spare Pi. I believe somebody did write an AirPlay server. I can't remember the name of it, and I can't remember how well it works, but search, or if it's free or not, I don't remember at all. But search for AirPlay server and you'll find some other options. I know you can get them for computers as well. So that's another option. If you could treat your computer as an AirPlay server and use an external monitor for that. I can't remember. I think somebody's done it for the Pi. I think so. Am I using the Restream Studio app? No, not for this. Restream Studio is very similar to StreamYard, and I use StreamYard for some of the live streams I do for work where I have other people joining, and I just want it to be just easy for everybody, and we don't need anything fancy, and we're only doing really two-person streams. Restream Studio is almost exactly the same as that, and I don't know why I don't use Restream Studio. I think just because we're paying for StreamYard. We have a work subscription to that. Philip asks, if 3 cameras are on an ATEM, can I set 2 of them to picture-in-picture and the third to a green screen? An ATEM Mini Pro does not have enough things to make that happen, but the ATEM Mini Extreme does. So let's see if my mouse is cooperating enough to actually do this demo. That's the real question. So if I go, let's say 3 cameras, you want 2 picture-in-picture, and the third is a green screen. Do I have anything I can green screen? Maybe I can green screen this poorly just to get the point across. So yeah, the ATEM Mini Pro doesn't have enough things to do it because you can only do 1 scaled and positioned video or green screen. There's one of those upstream key in the ATEM Mini Pro, and the upstream key is the one that can scale your video for picture-in-picture or do green screen. So you can't do it with the ATEM Mini Pro, but the ATEM Mini Extreme has 4 upstream keys. So if you look at the ATEM Mini Extreme, this next transition section is actually the upstream keys, and there's 4 of them. So you can either do it with 2 upstream keys to position your 2 and rescale them, or do it with the super source, which is actually the way I prefer to do it. It's just a little bit easier to manage when you do it with super source. So this is a super source layout, which is really just a box. That's my camera. A box scaled and positioned over here. Box 2 is my computer screen. So you could that could be another camera also. And then you can't do any green screening in super source, but you still have upstream keys available. So let's say I wanted to have box 1 instead of this camera. Let's say it's let's say it is this camera, and then whatever, I'm a little bit cropped out, but it's fine. And then if you wanted to green screen another one, you would go into your upstream key. Let's say upstream key 2, do chroma key. We're going to use the main camera, and then we're going to sample. This. Not my sweater. We're going to sample that blue that's right behind me. It may not work very well. And then we can, let's turn it on. Okay, it did something. You get the idea. It's not actually the worst, considering how not green or evenly lit my background is. But yeah, so now I've got 2 different cameras and green screening on top. So that is, but you will need the ATEM Mini Extreme for that because there isn't enough upstream keyers or super source in the Pro. But that is why I like this one, because you can do so much stuff with it. Yeah, so let's get out of that nonsense. Excellent question. Greg, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate the super chat. Did you have a question? I don't see one in the super chat, so I'm just gonna assume that is a general thank you. And thanks for the super chat. Chris says, I'm about to buy an extreme ISO for course creation and software demos. Talk me out of it. I'm going to have a very hard time talking you out of it. That's the problem. So here's the reason that I think it is a very, very good option for actually both course creation and software demos specifically. As you have been seeing me switch over to this view, for example, I really like the side-by-side version, like view of this, as opposed to like full screen computer with like a picture overlapping, which is what you get with the Pro. And I also like being able to, so yeah, with this super source layout, I like the way that looks. But then the ISO model of the Extreme or the Mini Pro, that's where it is super, super useful for doing both course creation and like recorded demos, because basically what it means is that instead of having to edit everything live and do live switching, you just record all your cameras at the same time, do the whole thing in post later. And that ends up being what I do quite a lot is actually all of the videos I did in January, I did this way. I'm testing out my new workflow for making these videos. And for all of them, I set up my ATEM Mini Extreme with, all of the inputs the way I want to bring everything into the different angles. So all the different angles I'm using, top-down camera, computer screen, sometimes two computer screens, sometimes my iPad showing something in there, whatever. And then I just hit go, I just hit record, and I do not touch the ATEM when I'm recording. I go through my script, sometimes reading a teleprompter, sometimes reading through notes, go through that, and I don't switch any camera angles. Then I take the full 8 video clips into Resolve and edit everything there later. So that's where I do the switching and adding in B-roll on top. So yeah, I think it's an excellent option, and it is really hard to go wrong with the Extreme. And I would go with the Extreme ISO, because if you're going to spend that much on the Extreme, you might as well spend the extra $300 for the ISO model, because you cannot get an 8-channel recorder for $300, which is the difference in that price. And if that was a good argument, please use my affiliate link, which is below, for the ATEM Mini Extreme, because that helps actually quite a lot. No, your Joe says, thanks for the information. I appreciate it. Thank you. Can you run videos on a Keynote slide on an iPad? Yes, you can. Actually, you can run it off of an iPod as well, which is which is actually what I do for where is it? For this one. So this is actually this one in particular. This is a video, a screen recording video in Keynote that is being played from an iPod Touch, and then I've brought it in to my mixing. This is just an image moved in Keynote, but yeah, it is it can play videos, and iPad and iPod Touch are both the same. It's a super good trick for doing graphics and stuff for your streams, because those iPods are cheap and you can get them used. And that one is actually not even the current gen iPod. It's the one before that. So it's pretty old. It can't even update to the latest iOS, but it's still working fine. I've just noticed that both images from the two cameras are equally sharp. Normally, the Blackmagic will look a bit blurry. Any changes? The teleprompter removed. I was wondering if anyone was going to notice this, because I have been trying to figure out why this angle has been less sharp. It's normally the Blackmagic Pocket 4K. It is behind a teleprompter glass, so that is definitely a potential cause for making these a little bit less sharp. Today, I actually swapped the camera, and this is not the Pocket 4K anymore. This is now actually the Lumix GH5S. And the Lumix GH5S, which I haven't used in a while because I've been using the GH5 Mark II mostly for as I'm just out and about. So I put it where the Pocket 4K normally is, and the colors are not quite the same, but I think they're okay. But it doesn't quite look exactly the same, but I think it's still fine. And that is the only difference. It's still behind the teleprompter glass. It's actually the same lens. It's the 12 to 35 lens that was on the Pocket 4K, and it's now on the GH5S. So, yeah, that's interesting. I'm glad you noticed. I'm glad that is helping, but now I'm concerned about why the Pocket 4K isn't as sharp. So I'm gonna have to look into that. But that was the one thing I wanted to try. Like, I want to do proper like side-by-side tests and actually do a real comparison and all that stuff, but like it's a lot of work. A lot of work to just unplug all those cables and set up those cameras all the time. So yeah. It does appear sharper. Well, good. That's interesting. I might just leave this one on here for a while then, because I haven't been using the camera for anything else anyway. Is there a way to connect to Companion remotely over a different network? There are a lot of different ways, and there's a lot of different ways. All of them are not something I can explain in just a couple of minutes, unfortunately. Probably the easiest way to just send you down the right path is to mention VPNs, but it's a whole topic. It's a whole thing. I would still like to find a way to explain this in some way that is easy to replicate. But what I usually end up doing is VPN. So I have a VPN server in this network. It is actually on a Raspberry Pi. It is WireGuard on a Raspberry Pi. WireGuard is a VPN server. I have a port forwarded to it from the router. So when I'm out of the network, I can get in through the VPN. And once I'm VPN'd in, my computer can see all the devices on this network. And that includes companions. So for example, if I have an iPad that is out of the network, I can VPN from the iPad into this network, and then load up the web interface of Companion on here, and it works fine. If you want to, there's another option, which is Companion has a separate program called Companion Remote or Companion Satellite. I don't remember which one was the new name of it. And that is a way to actually use a physical Stream Deck to control a remote Companion. So if you're on the same network, it's easy. If you're on different networks, it's possible, but then more VPN nonsense to deal with. All right, we're coming up on the end of the 90 minutes here, so I'm going to skip through and see if there's any easy questions I can get to before we wrap up here. I love the cute super chats. What coding language is your chat plugin made with? So I'm two parts to this. I'm glad this is working better. I agree. It helps the show flow a little bit better. The chat plugin that I always link to that looks like this is actually just JavaScript and CSS that is injected by a browser extension into YouTube's chat, into the actual chat window itself. And that is so easy to get to use and get started with, which is great. And that's just JavaScript and CSS. It was actually mostly not even my own JavaScript and CSS. It was from another video that I saw and sort of packaged it up, and then I've made a bunch of changes to it since then and added a remote window and all that stuff. But the what I'm actually using for this is not that plugin, because I've started adding more and more features. So I have like you can't see it, but if I show you a little sneak peek of the computer screen, I've got these 4 columns because this one's the real-time chat. This one is when you have a queue in front. That one is I can actually now add things to my own queue. If I see something that I want to get to, I can be like, oh, I'm going to mention that later, and jumps over there. And then over here now is the super chats on the far right. This is just my own pile of a mess of code that is a combination of PHP, JavaScript, and CSS. And not anything that is packaged up nicely for anybody else to use, because it is a bit of a pain to actually set up. So sorry. But the core of it, that is the visual part, is what's in that browser extension. So yeah. Good question. Let's see. Let me skip ahead a little bit and see if there's any others we can do easily before we wrap up. Okay, yeah. So Mary says, have you had issues with Companion? For example, that it crashes the ATEM. No, I don't think I've ever seen the Companion crash the ATEM. That would be very, very concerning if that is possible. I have seen an ATEM crash. It doesn't happen very often. I don't even remember the last time it's happened to me, but it is possible. I don't think I've ever seen Companion crash it, but it's worth looking into what else might be going on if that's happening to you. How do you connect the iPad into the system? Right now, I am doing AirPlay from the iPad to an Apple TV, which is plugged into the ATEM, and that works well. I like that it's wireless. Obviously, because it's wireless, there's a little bit of a delay, and some of the graphics get compressed a little bit more than if you were plugging it in over HDMI, but the more stable version is HDMI, of course. Is there a scenario where using a software encoder would outplay the more sophisticated wired encoder options, traveling budget, lives, etc., or should I upgrade to wired? I've mentioned this several times before. Like, oh well, okay. So I do consider YoloBox it's like a hybrid software hardware, because it is an Android device, so it is software, and all the work for the video processing is done in software. But it is slightly more dedicated hardware compared to running OBS on a computer. So but yeah, if you're talking about like ATEM YoloBox, sort of more custom hardware compared to OBS on a laptop, for example, I think what I would say is OBS on a laptop can do very well, assuming you're not trying to do too much with it. But one of the things that it does a lot easier and a lot cheaper and smaller than the rest of the stuff is fancier layouts and more custom graphics. So it's, it takes more stuff to get custom graphics into an ATEM or a YoloBox, whereas OBS has a lot more tools available in it to do that stuff, just sort of built in. So if you're doing traveling, or if you don't want to bring a huge rig somewhere and you also want a lot of customization, you may end up being better off with OBS. But as soon as you start getting into multiple cameras in OBS, that's where it starts to, it's not as good. So like multiple capture cards in OBS is going to put a lot of stress on the computer. But OBS plus an ATEM, for example, means you can do the camera switching in the hardware, and OBS only sees one camera, so you can get kind of a hybrid that way. But yeah, I would say it is a lot easier to do like a lot of the fancier graphics in a pure software thing like OBS or even Ecamm or vMix or any of those. Whenever I show my iPad screen over HDMI on the ATEM, it's 4:3. Do you know of a trick to how to show it in 16:9? There is no trick. The only trick is, so yeah, it's because the iPad screen itself is not 16:9. It is, I don't even think it's 4:3. I think it's something else, but whatever it is, it's the native resolution of the screen. That is what gets scaled to fit into 16:9, and there is no option to do the sort of like overscan where it fills the screen. But if you're inside of certain programs and those programs are aware of a second screen, they can output whatever they want to output. So when I'm in LiveApp doing, drawing over the screen or playing videos, LiveApp is outputting a 16:9 and it does fill the screen of the ATEM. But for straight up screen mirroring of the iPad, there's no way to get your iPad screen into a 16:9 mode. It just doesn't do that. Is there any way to view program from the ATEM Extreme ISO wirelessly for camera operators? Couple ways. Probably for camera operators, if you're talking about like wanting that very quick, immediate feedback, probably the best way is using Hollyland or CineEye wireless transmitters. So that's where you plug in. It's they come in a set. So there's a transmitter receiver. You plug in the HDMI out of the ATEM into the transmitter, and then you would it has a pass-through, so you can see it still in your local monitor. But then your receiver you can plug into other monitors, or a lot of them can even do like phones, so mirroring to phones. So you can have multiple smartphones or iPads linked to those transmitters and see everything on them. That's probably the best for that scenario because you want them to see as close to real time as possible, and you'll only be a few frames behind. If you're talking about much longer distances, like internet distances, so hundreds of miles apart, then you can also do it using streaming encoders. So like when I'm at home and I want to view the program out of the ATEM or the multi-view of the ATEM, I can connect it to a separate hardware encoder that is grabbing the HDMI from that and giving me like it's like the security camera feed, basically RTSP feed, where I can pull it up in VLC or any other app on my computer and see it on the screen there. But for a local environment, I would definitely go with the much more real-time actual wireless transmitter situation. David, thanks for the super chat again. Appreciate it. Cool. You've had a lot of great questions today, which is wonderful. All right, coming up on the end here, a couple more quick ones, and then we're going to wrap this up. So, Rick, thank you for purchasing the 10-inch camera monitor using your link. Thank you. I have a 27-inch LG and an iMac and a teleprompter. How do you switch monitor configurations with Companion? Ooh, I don't at all. It just sits there. I never change the monitor configuration. The reason I like that monitor is because it does do the image flip itself. So I have it in the teleprompter there, and can you see it? Yeah, you can see it here. So it is sitting in the teleprompter there, and it's doing the image flip. But because it's permanently there and I never move it, I always have it just in that mode. So I never have to worry about changing any settings. And then it's connected over SDI into the rest of the stuff in the studio. So I can route different things to it, but not from the monitor. The monitor is just a display. So I can, like right now, I don't think you can see into it. You can kind of see into it. That's actually the web presenter view. So I can see on air and I can see the bit rate and all that, which is what I like to do for this stream. So I can make sure that it's on and I'm not just off the air suddenly. But then I can switch it to be a teleprompter by routing my computer screen to it. That way I can drag a script up to there when I'm recording a video. But that's all outside of the monitor. So I never touch the monitor settings. All right. Carl says, do I use a speed editor? I'm trying. I still haven't found how it will save me that much time. I have an ATEM Mini Pro. I'm intimidated about creating macros. Is the Stream Deck an easier alternative? Absolutely. I agree that macros are a little bit intimidating. I will say the best way to deal with creating macros is to like do the step-by-step of creating the macro in the software, look at the XML it creates, and then like verify that to see if it's doing what you thought it was going to do. I agree it's intimidating. And I've actually moved away from most of my show being macros, where it used to be almost entirely macros. And most of my stuff is now in Companion. And the reason for that is because it's a lot easier to see what a button will do by clicking on it in Companion and looking at the actions here. And it's way easier to change it. So if I want to say, oh, I don't like the super source layout, when I press that button, I need to change the crop a tiny bit. It's way easier to come in here and then edit this in just visually, as opposed to with the macro, it's more of a process of editing that config file, restoring it, et cetera, et cetera. So I've been moving more and more of the automation into here. The only times I'll use macros now are where the feature is missing from Companion. Like Companion doesn't actually have the ability to do everything that the ATEM can do or the macro can do. Or if I need the timing to happen very precisely. So if you have a bunch of actions that you're telling Companion to send a bunch of commands to the ATEM, it'll work most of the time, but you may notice that no, that's not a good example. Let's see. Some of these are going to have I'll have like a delay. Here's one. So here's where I have like a 50 millisecond delay because I want to make sure that whatever this was has happened first and then this happens. But like if this were in a macro, I wouldn't have that concern because I know that the macro is going to go like frame by frame and run the command. So if I need precise timing or if I need to do things that the Companion can't do, that's the only time I'm using macros now, really. And the rest is all in Companion. Oh, this is a great point. I totally forgot to check this. When you use the Pocket Cinema camera, you had delay in the audio. Are you saying that I don't have delay in the audio now? Because I forgot to check that when I swapped the camera out. I hope I haven't been delayed this whole time. Gonna have to check that. Well, let me know. If this angle is out of sync with the audio, I will be very upset. And then I'm going to have to go fix that. Have I looked at the Elgato foot pedal thing? I haven't bought one because it doesn't exist yet, but I saw their announcement and it seems cool, but there's also a ton of foot pedals already. So the main appeal the Elgato one has is that it works with their software, which I don't use. I bought the Stream Deck, but I do not use Elgato software. I connect my Stream Deck to a Raspberry Pi and I run Companion. So if I were to use a foot pedal, I would probably want it to also talk to Companion, which I don't know if it can yet, but I'm sure they'll figure it out. And there's other foot pedals out there already that can talk to Companion already. So yeah. Eric says, I remember those old days of Aaron bringing up the XML editor practically once on every show. That really did go away over time. It really did, because I started moving more and more into Companion. Now I just show you Companion all the time. The foot pedals are on sale, but sold out very quickly. Oh, then I must have missed it. When I looked, they weren't yet selling. So, oh well. Okay, now there's people are saying a mix. No delay, audio is in sync, no delay, but some people say it's out of sync. So then I'm going to go with, I'm going to test this later, and maybe there's 2 frames or something. The GH5 does, if I remember correctly, it's 1 frame or 2 frames or something. It's very good compared to the G7. So this angle is much more delayed. But I do remember the G5 was very nearly in sync. give us a clap. Yeah, I should do that for sync test. So here we go. I'll look at that later. Tom Buck got his delivered yesterday. Oh, cool. Okay, well, I'll wait for him to report on it. But yeah, I don't think that, because I don't use the Elgato software, I don't really have a need for their foot pedal. So. Oh, my question was, did you add a delay when you use the Pocket Cinema camera? No. So the Pocket Cinema camera also has almost no HDMI delay. I believe it is 1 frame. So that was a big benefit of the Cinema camera. I am going to have to adjust it for this camera now that I switched. Definitely a slight delay of video, audio is a little bit in front. Whoops. All right. Well, the good news is I can do that. Not that hard to do because I'm going to have to, it's going to be a while. I can't do it live. Because I'm using the MR18 now in here. How do I do this? For that camera, it's in the FX. So I have a stereo delay here, which is on the other camera, which is the G7. So it's significant. That's the delay. Let's see. How do I edit this? It is, where's the time? Oh my God. Time. 132 milliseconds is what I've got for the G7. So I will need to do another one here. Probably not 132 milliseconds. What is 1 frame? 1000 over 30. Over 30. Probably 33 milliseconds. So let's go like that. And then I should be able to insert it into channel 2 and then turn it. Oh, I'm not going to do this because I need to hear it in order to double check. Yeah. Oh, well. The real test, we can do the real test though, is to turn on the camera audio and the mic audio. So if I go into, so I can hear the program audio, which is coming in on mic 1, which I don't want to add the delay there because it's all of the show. But if I turn on the built-in camera microphone, this is from the camera, which means it's got a bunch of noise, but you are hearing 2 of me now. The question is, are these in sync? And the way to tell is if I clap, are you going to hear 2 claps? That sounds like just 1 clap to me. So if I turn that off, this is just the camera microphone behind the teleprompter, so it sounds like crap. But this should be perfectly in sync because it's coming from the camera. So, and when I turn this one on, I don't hear double. So maybe it's just a, oh, let me turn that off. Maybe the delay is only just in the player. Okay. Yeah. No delay, not hearing any latency, sync, only 1 clap. I take everything back. Yeah, it could be in the player. Sometimes the YouTube player is just out of sync too. Yep, could be a YouTube thing, especially if it's only happening for some people. Well, that's good. Good to know that the GH5 has virtually no delay also. Can Companion fire macro? Yes, it can. So some of my buttons in Companion will run a macro, which then does a few things that are either not possible to do in Companion or need to happen quickly. The best mixer is the Rack X32, has integrated delay for each channel. That does sound easier than routing through the effects processor. Too bad I didn't get that one. Oh well. All right. Can you make a tutorial of creating a customized browser source that can control lower thirds, sounds, and other overlays like the confetti. That's a lot. That's a lot of stuff. I could definitely do it. I would probably rather do it as just a long live stream because, yeah, I don't know how I would do this in a well-designed tutorial. I might have to just ramble for it. Could be fun though. Could be fun. All right, now that we've just gone and rambled about audio sync, let's go ahead and wrap this up. I do want to say thank you for these super chats. A couple more super chats came in, so thanks for that. Thanks, Jim. Thanks for the super chat. I hope I answered questions you had. And oh yeah, I should also mention my shop. Again, I am selling several things. My merch, as well as the stands. Obviously, you can find the links there. Some branded merch with my channel colors. But the used gear, still trying to get everything out of here. So if you want a good deal on some of the stuff that I've used in the past and I do not have a use for anymore, check this out, because I am dropping the price every week by $5 or $10. So these are going down, down, down until we get down to $1. So take a look at those again. And yeah, I also want to mention, now that I've made it through a month of this, my planner has been very handy, and I've been keeping track of the live streams. I've been stamping when I do videos, and I did do a video every week in January, and I am very pleased about that. And the only reason I was able to do it was frankly because of this planner, which is how I've been arranging and planning for these videos, which has my whole checklist of what I need to do to make a video. And it's been working out very well. So you can find that at linked on my shop. And if you want to try it out yourself, it's been very, very useful for me. And it's the only reason I've managed to actually get a video out every week. And Randy, thank you for the super chat. Thanks for the weekly streams. I appreciate the super chat very much. And yeah, we're going to wrap up here. So do check out the links in the description. I've got links to everything I mentioned today in the stream. And I will put chapters on this again for watching the replays. And yeah, thanks everybody for joining. Thanks for all the questions. Again, it would not be a show without the questions, so keep them coming. And yeah, remember to like this before you go. Thanks, Bailey. Good reminder. Remember to like this before you go. And thanks, Ryan. Thanks for joining. Thank you, everybody. And yeah, have a great rest of the day. Go make some content, make some videos. We'll be back next week. Don't know what to expect next week. We'll find out. It's always different. It's always something. It is maybe some new gear to try out. Maybe everything in here will be in a different place. Who knows? Maybe I'll have some 3D models to show different angles I'm thinking about. We will find out. We'll find out what I can get up to over the course of the week. So yeah, thanks everybody for joining, and have a great rest of the day.